At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. The Department of Defense is working with Google to help secure America's digital defense systems, from establishing cloud-based zero-trust solutions to deploying the latest AI technology. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American innovation.
Welcome to Dear Prudence. I'm your guest, Prudence Kristen Meinzer. I host a couple of other podcasts, including Buy the Book and How to Be Fine. Be sure to check those out if you love self-help books, hate self-help books, or want advice on how to be okay-ish rather than perfect. Today, we'll be answering questions about confronting your dad's hoarding partner, moving forward after a fight with your mom, and dealing with a controlling fiancé. Here to help me out is sports journalist and author Frankie de la Cretaz. Welcome to the show, Frankie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, before we get started, we like to ask all of our guests for a bit of advice that you would give to the world unprompted.
Okay, this is what I'm working on, but I think it's really important, which is it's okay to let people be wrong about you. Yeah.
Oh, explain more about this.
I'm a journalist, right? So I always have the receipts and the facts, and I struggle. I'm okay if you're upset with me over something I legitimately did or said or whatever, but I really struggle when I feel like people are perceiving me incorrectly. And I spend a lot of time and energy trying to either defend myself or explain myself. And that's fine if you're engaging with someone who's engaging in good faith, but sometimes people don't do that. And whether it's your family or, people in your community, sometimes people are just going to be wrong about who you are and what your motives are, and that has to be okay. So this is something I'm working on for myself too.
Oh, wow. This is a great piece of advice. It is one that I think I'm still working on too. It's one that I've definitely, especially on social media, dealt with struggles with this, where, especially when I was more active on Twitter, where people would, I would say, misconstrue what I was saying. And I'm like, I think you just decided to read between the lines, and there were no lines to read between here. And yeah.
Social media makes this so much worse because everyone is kind of always engaging in the worst faith possible.
Yes.
And you feel like you could defend yourself forever. But I've found that even in my personal life, like I have a complicated relationship with my family. They don't understand me. And like, that kind of has to be okay. Like maybe I just stop trying to explain myself because they're not listening. And so I think it can apply in a variety of situations. And it's hard. I'm very bad at letting people be wrong.
I feel like we should start a club for that. I think I get that.
I'm totally fine if you don't like me because of something I legitimately did or said. That is fine. I will own that. But not if you're wrong about me.
But your advice is to try and let that go. If people are wrong about us, we got to let it go and just not be that invested in it.
Yeah.
That's about them, not about us, right?
It's true.
Such great advice. Thank you for that, Frankie. We are going to take a quick break, and then, Frankie, we are going to dive into these letters.
Planning any exciting trips this year? Something you might not be planning is to learn the local language. Well, with Babbel, you only need a few weeks to learn. Babbel is an amazing resource if you're going on an international trip this year. They offer Spanish, French, German, Italian, Russian, Portuguese, Swedish, Polish, Dutch, Norwegian, Turkish, Indonesian, and Danish, so you can study up wherever you're going. And Babbel's speech recognition technology will help you improve your pronunciation and accent, so you really sound like a local. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons, handcrafted by over 200 language experts, get you to begin speaking your new language in 3 weeks or whatever pace you choose. Babbel is designed using practical, real-world conversations, so you'll be ready to talk wherever you go. With over 16 million subscriptions sold, Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee. So this year, get talking with Babbel. Let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting our listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/Prudie. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/Prudie, spelled BABBEL.com/PRUDIE, babbel.com/Prudie. Rules and restrictions may apply. This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Welcome back. You're listening to Dear Prudence. I'm Kristen Meinzer, and I am here with Frankie de la Cretaz. And Frankie, are you ready for our first letter?
I'm ready.
All right. This one is titled Drowning in Denver.
My condo is a fairly good size, but it is still a condo. I don't have infinite storage. My father and his partner Jessica survived a recent natural disaster, but the house was beyond repair and the insurance company is dragging on the settlement. So I invited them to stay with me, and even moved into the smaller room so they could have a private bath. I've gotten along with Jessica fine before, but I've never lived with her. The woman is a borderline hoarder. I've never seen more useless decorative pillows and other holiday knickknacks outside of a Pinterest board. She spends all her time thrifting and will bring back bags and bags of junk home. My storage area is overflowing. I can't get my bike out of the narrow closet in the front without crawling in between all of our crap. Jessica cries and throws a fit if I try to clean and manage the living space. My father tells me I'm being too hard on Jessica and they lost so much already, but we're drowning in this crap here. I finally told my father they needed to go rent a storage unit, or I would, and start charging them for it. I love my dad and I was happy that Jessica made him happy, but I am this close to kicking them out to stay with my sister in California, and her place is much smaller than mine. Help!
This sounds awful to me. Frankie, what is your relationship with stuff, with lots of stuff, or with other people's stuff? Are you cool with this, or how do you feel about this?
I feel like I have sort of a middle ground in which I definitely have more things than some people do. I'm a maximalist, so I really feel strongly about like surrounding myself with things that I love. But on the other hand, I have no problem getting rid of things that I'm not using and clearing out things that are just sort of taking up needless space.
Yeah. I like pretty things too. I have 2 Christmas trees sitting to my left right now here on this desk just because they make me happy. I have a lot of art on the wall that you can see behind me. But there is a line that's crossed between a few pretty things and lots of other people's junk, in my opinion.
Yes.
When you, the letter writer, are just trying to be charitable and say, here's a place for you to crash while you're waiting for your insurance claim to come through. And the fact that you gave up the big bedroom for them, and apparently the big bedroom isn't enough to hold all their crap, but now it's in all the closets and all the common spaces. This is bad. And even people who like pretty things like me and Frankie, I'm sure would be, this is too much.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing about stuff is if there's not actually a place for it, that's when it really becomes a problem. It's okay if you have a lot of stuff, if you have closets and places to store it, and maybe you have a big house. But in a condo where a bunch of people are living and everyone is trying to cram their stuff into a smaller space, you may have to make hard decisions about what stuff stays and goes, or even if it doesn't go, it goes somewhere else.
Yeah. So Frankie, what advice do you have for our letter writer for dealing with this parental avalanche of stuff?
Sounds like a really difficult situation. And obviously, I don't know any of the people involved, and I don't know Jessica, but I do know that it must be really hard to lose all of your things. And I know that some people already have hoarding tendencies, but I also know that in cases of a trauma, some of those tendencies can be exacerbated. So it's quite possible that Jessica is coping with the loss of all of her things by accumulating more things. And I don't know if that's the case, but I think for the letter writer, it's definitely worth, you want to try to have compassion for kind of everybody involved and taking a step back and maybe trying to understand why it might be happening first before then addressing can, I think, allow you to approach them from a place that might feel more charitable or understanding, and maybe might cut down on defensiveness on the other side.
Yeah, a gentle, loving approach, I think, assuming the best in others is always the best way to go. But while I agree with that, I also think that this is a time to stick to your guns as well, to say, I want to understand where you're coming from, but I also really want your stuff not everywhere here. I want you to contain it to your very large room that you get to have right now. And I'd like you to contain it to a storage unit. And I just want to reiterate that. I'm saying that with love. It's going to make everybody's lives better. It's going to make me a less frustrated person so I can be a better roommate to you during this time. And I also think it's okay for the letter writer to say, I just can't do this anymore. If they don't abide by this agreement, it's okay for you to say, I'm sorry, but you have to go live with sister now. Or you have to go live somewhere else because I can't have this all in my space anymore. It's not comfortable for me. It actually could become a fire hazard, honestly, if it's starting to block certain doorways and so on. So it might actually be a danger to everybody in this condo right now. So I really need you to abide by this agreement. And if you can't, then we need to stop this roommate situation.
I fully agree. I thought the storage unit was a great suggestion because the letter writer is not asking Jessica to throw out all of the things that she's accumulating. She's asking them to be stored elsewhere because there's not space where they're living. So I thought that was a really smart and like generous solution that could work well for everybody if, you know, Jessica and the dad are willing to do that. But yes, I 100% agree. There's a point, like, your living situation affects your emotional health, your mental health, your physical health. And if the letter writer is feeling so constrained in her own, or in their own space, that they can't relax, they can't navigate it, that is going to take a toll on kind of the rest of their life. And there's a point when they have to say, like, enough is enough.
Yeah, enough is enough. Letter writer, we're sending you good thoughts. We hope that insurance check comes through soon.
Yes.
In the meantime, stand your ground, but do it with compassion.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to our next letter. It is titled Missing Mom.
I never wanted kids or marriage, and I thought my mother had made peace with that fact. She has been lonely since my dad died, so when she started dating again, I was happy, except she is obsessed with her partner's grandchildren. She forwards tons of pictures and constantly updates me on their activities. I've met 2 of partner's kids once, and my mother hasn't even met half of the grandchildren. When we talk, she ignores what I'm saying to immediately jump into the grandchildren talk. It has been very difficult for me this year as 2 of my dearest friends are in the middle of awful health crises and are leaning on me heavily. I finally stopped my mother mid-conversation and told her I didn't want to hear any more about people I don't know, and I really needed her support now. My mother basically denied everything and told me I was blowing things out of proportion. I said she wasn't going to be grandma here. Her partner's ex is very much alive and lives with one of the kids. She told me to stop acting like a child and ended the conversation. Nothing has changed, and I've stopped responding to my mom's calls. It makes me feel very small and lonely since we used to be very close and talked all the time. I had plans to visit next month, but really don't want to make the trip if it's going to end with my mother just ignoring me. What should I do? Thank you.
Oof. I think there's a lot going on in this letter here.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the grandkids. I think there's other things that are happening here that are much bigger. What do you think, Frankie?
I agree. And I will say that the mom's reaction to this makes me wonder about her reaction to other things, kind of overall, how she responds to her child's experience of the world more generally, and whether this is a bit of a pattern. I don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But clearly there's a lot of stuff happening here, both within the parent-child relationship and then with each of them separately.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I think so. And the fact that the letter writer chose to give the title Missing Mom to their letter also makes me think, even though the letter writer wants to be okay with where mom's at in life right now, letter writer wants a different version of mom that doesn't exist anymore. Mom is in a new phase now. Mom is in love. Mom knows she's never going to get grandkids out of the letter writer and is kind of getting grandkids by proxy through the new boyfriend and is really excited about that and joyous about this new phase in life. And letter writer is going through a lot of tough stuff right now. And letter writer wants to talk about tough stuff. Mom wants to talk about what's making her happy. And it sounds like there's no middle ground here between the two.
Yes, I do wonder a bit if what is happening is, as mom is talking about these new step grandkids, for lack of a better word, whether the talk about that is feeling like a bit of a knife, a little bit of a poke or a guilt trip, even if, you know what I mean, or if it's being used in a way that doesn't feel good to the letter writer.
Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering that too, because the letter writer in the very beginning says, I never wanted kids or marriage. And I'm feeling like my mom is punishing me for that through the constant mentions of these step grandkids. But I do think letter writer, I mean this with kindness. I think you can handle things with your mom in a different way other than ignoring the phone calls. I don't think ignoring phone calls is making this better right now. It clearly isn't, or you wouldn't be writing to us. And I don't think it's ever polite or okay to say to somebody, those aren't even your real kids. You're never going to be a grandma. I just don't think that that was kind to your mother. And I also don't think it's necessarily true. As somebody with step grandparents myself, I will say they were absolutely my grandparents. I loved them so much. And I know a lot of other people, including my husband, who had step grandparents, and they were grandparents. So that was kind of, I know probably spoken in pain and sadness and anger, but I don't think that's necessarily true either. But I do think this whole situation can be made better if you are willing to pick up the phone. Your mom sounds like she's still calling all the time, or if you send a letter, or if you initiate some other contact. It sounds like you need to have a tough conversation. And by tough, I mean a vulnerable one, where you have to say some of this stuff out loud to your mom about how you're feeling right now, about how you feel like maybe your mom is trying to dig the knife in. And your mom then can say if that is or isn't true. And maybe you can say to your mom also, I want to hear what makes you happy, but I also want room in every conversation where we can also talk about what's making me sad. And if there can be more of a balance of those things in our conversations. I also think it might be useful at some point, if these grandkids are going to be in your mom's life for the long haul, maybe it would be useful for you to actually meet these grandkids either through a Zoom call or an occasional family get-together. What do you think, Frankie?
I agree with all of that. I think the place that the letter writer said things that make me wonder about mom's ability to have this kind of conversation and whether the letter writer has tried is what sounds like potentially mom getting defensive and also denying the letter writer's experience of some of this, turning it on the letter writer and calling them childish. And so I think having that conversation definitely needs to happen. And if you're going to take a step back from the relationship, that needs to be communicated, right? You don't just kind of stop talking to someone. Like, regardless of where this goes, a conversation very clearly needs to happen. But I also think if mom isn't willing or able to actually understand and acknowledge the letter writer's own perspective, that can be really difficult too.
Yeah, yeah. I hope that these two can find a place of peace because, again, it sounds like, at least in the beginning of the letter, it sounds like the letter writer is missing an old version of mom. That version of her is probably in there still. But, mom is also really happy and in love right now. And not to give mom a complete pass, but sometimes when people are newly in love, they just kind of act like another thing about my love, another thing about this new phase in my life. And yeah, it can be insufferable. And if you can find a way to talk about it, I hope you can get a little bit of that old version of your mom back still.
Yeah. And I will say, I hope that the letter writer has other sources of emotional support as
Yes,
they are
yes.
navigating a lot. If mom usually fills that role and isn't able to, are there other people that the letter writer can turn to get some of those needs met so that it doesn't feel as hard that mom's is missing?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm a huge advocate for making sure that we all have support systems outside of just one person. Ideally, it's several people that we can get that support and love from. And one last thing, the big question from the letter writer was, what about this visit I'm supposed to be doing soon? And I think it's okay to push off that visit next month.
Yeah, I agree, especially if you do have a conversation and it doesn't go well. Sometimes taking space, because if you then get into proximity with each other, it can sometimes exacerbate some of the existing stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So it's okay. We're not saying don't ever visit again, but
Yeah.
if it feels good for you now to just like take a little breather, not next month, but maybe 4 months down the road, maybe that's a better time for a visit. Yeah, we're giving you permission to do that. All right, we are going to take a very quick break, but when we're back, more letters from all of you out there.
This episode is brought to you by Discover. If you've listened to Dear Prudence for a while, you know how important acceptance is when it comes to your personal growth. And you know who else is big on acceptance? Discover. You see, Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. That's a whole lot of places and a whole lot of acceptance, which is great for Discover, but even better for you. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. This episode is brought to you by Discover. If you've listened to Dear Prudence for a while, you know how important acceptance is when it comes to your personal growth. And you know who else is big on acceptance? Discover. You see, Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. That's a whole lot of places and a whole lot of acceptance, which is great for Discover, but even better for you. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states and situations.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Dear Prudence. I'm Kristen Meinzer, and I'm here with Frankie de la Cretaz to answer your letters. The next one is titled Bad Chem.
My fiancé and I have been together for years, dated for 8, and engaged for almost 1. He sometimes has tendencies to be controlling. He claims he cares about me. Recently, I discovered he threw away something of mine that I use rarely, but I still use it. I know it may sound silly, but I bought dry shampoo months ago after a friend let me use some of hers. I bought online and use it very rarely when I need to, and it's a plus that it works great with my oily hair. My fiancé would get upset when I'd use it because it does smell like chemicals. But I have looked it up that dry shampoo is healthier than stripping oils with constant shampooing in the shower. I went to use it this week after my hair was looking greasy and found out he threw it away. I asked him and he replied, "It's cancerous, you're welcome." I was upset. I paid for that and I liked it. I know I can just buy another one, but I feel if I do, I have to use it in secret. I just don't like this, and when I told him that, he became defensive.
When is a cigar not just a cigar? When is dry shampoo not just dry shampoo?
I don't like I don't like any of this.
Me
To be
neither.
really
And it's
honest.
not just about dry shampoo at all. It is not at all. And I'm just going to say sentence number 2 one more time out loud. He sometimes has tendencies to be controlling.
Yeah.
That sentence number 2 had alarm bells going off in my mind before we even got to the dry shampoo part.
Yes. I think the letter writer this is a time that someone is asking a question they maybe already know the answer to a little bit. I think that second sentence, it was quite telling. You know that this is someone who already can be controlling, and this is just clearly one of many other ways
Yes.
that he
Yes.
has exhibited control at some
Yeah.
point in the relationship.
Yeah. And I would encourage the letter writer to just sit down and think about these other ways. You're saying right at the top of the letter, fiancé is controlling. What other ways? Give some examples to yourself. Does he micromanage you? Does he make decisions for you? Does he invade your privacy? Does he isolate you from others? Does he behave in ways that are overly protective beyond this so-called cancerous dry shampoo? Does he make subtle or overt attempts to control your appearance? There are a long list of questions that you can find on any domestic violence website that will be clues to, is this controlling behavior actually part of something that's larger? And I hate to be the voice of dread here, but controlling is sometimes the first baby step toward things that are much worse than controlling. And again, it's not just about the shampoo, but even if it were just about the shampoo, it is not okay to throw away other people's property. I don't care if it's shampoo, clothes, or anything else. It's not okay to do that. It is okay to say, hey, can we talk about this? The smell of this thing actually gives me a headache. Can we talk about you switching brands possibly? Is that something you'd be open to? That is something that a grown-up does. Your fiancé is not being a grown-up. He is being controlling. And also, when we screw up, something else that grown-ups do is we apologize. And instead, your fiancé decided to just poke you more like, it's cancerous, you're welcome. I'm sorry, that's not an apology. That's not an apology, and that's not how a grown-up person in a healthy relationship behaves.
Yes, because it's not just about the controlling behavior of throwing something away that he didn't approve of, but by framing it as you're welcome, it's very, look what you made me do. It's very, I'm blaming you for this. I have done you a favor by controlling you. And I think I actually used to be a domestic violence counselor before I was a journalist. And
Oh, you're perfect for this one. You're perfect for
one
this
of the
letter.
things that stood out to me was the timeline of the relationship, that they've been together a long time, but they've been engaged about a year. And as you said, that sometimes these quote unquote smaller acts of control can be stepping stones. It's also quite common for controlling behavior and or abusive behavior to escalate over time. And marriage and pregnancy are two big kind of time periods for that, because you are much more tied to them. It's much harder to leave or get out once that happens. And so I don't know this relationship, and but it's definitely worth considering if you are noticing these red flags and you are set to marry this person, to really really think about whether this feels like the right relationship for you, because there is always the possibility that these things can get worse over time.
Yeah. Would you suggest these two do relationship counseling, Frankie?
So this is where I would say my initial instinct is no, but I will admit that is a jump to me being like, if there's abuse present, I would say no. If we determine that, whether it's emotional abuse or anything more overt than that, you can actually do more damage in couples counseling with when there's abuse present, because things that get said in session can be used against you outside of session. It can also be used as a manipulative space, particularly if you have a partner who is charismatic and is very able to like make people like them and kind of sound good and talk their way out of things, which is a very common thing that happens. And so it's not my first instinct to say that I would recommend counseling. I think my first instinct is to say, look up the domestic violence power and control wheel, see if any of those things resonate in your relationship. If they do, I would be really cautious about seeking couples counseling, and I would instead maybe suggest individual counseling, and particularly with someone who might understand some of these dynamics and can help you see them more clearly. Because if it's true that there's a larger abuse dynamic present and you do decide to end the relationship, that's the other time that things can escalate, is when you leave somebody who is abusive. And so if that's the case, having an advocate or a counselor or somebody who can help you make a plan before you do anything to keep yourself safe, whether it's physically safe or even just if you've been living together, there are ways that you might be financially entangled and could be taken advantage of, or have your stuff thrown on the lawn, or whatever it is, that someone can help you make a plan to kind of minimize a lot of that impact and do it in the way that will protect you best.
Yeah. Oh, such great advice. Frankie, I am so glad that you're the person here with this letter and with all of your background and all of your expertise. I think, letter writer, listen to everything that Frankie's saying here. Please, please. And take care of yourself. And please don't get married. Not at this point. Please don't.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Please don't. All right. Well, that's it for today's questions. It has been so much fun. Frankie, you are so wise. You are so kind. We're so glad that you were here for this. Can you tell our listeners where they can get more of you?
Yeah, the easiest place to find me is at my newsletter. It's called Out of Your League, and you can subscribe to me there. And I'm also on socials at the Frankie DLC.
Great. And you can hear more of me, Kristen Meinzer, on How to Be Fine, Buy the Book, or The Daily Fail. Folks, do you need help getting along with partners, relatives, coworkers, and people in general? Write to Prudie. Go to slate.com/Prudie. That's slate.com/PRUDIE. The Dear Prudence column is published every Thursday. Dear Prudence was produced this week by Maura Currie and Vic Whitley-Berry with editorial help from Paula De Verona. Daisy Rosario is senior supervising producer, and Slate's editor-in-chief is Hillary Fry. And I'm your guest, Prudence, Kristen Meinzer. That's all for this episode, but join us on today's episode of Prudie Plus, where Frankie and I tackle how to reach out to former in-laws. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts by clicking Try Free at the top of your show page, or visit slate.com/Prudie Plus to get access wherever you listen. The episode is available for you to listen to right now. We'll see you over there.